In class, we've discussed the unit circle values for cosine, sine, and tangent. Right now, let's take a look at 3 more circular functions. Let's take a look at secant S. We abbreviate secant, S-E-C, and secant relates to cosine as its reciprocal function. So it's 1 over cosine S. Now, if you remember from when we talked about tangent, we had the restriction on tangent because cosine cannot equal 0. It would make tangent undefined. Likewise with secant, S cannot equal pi over 2 plus k pi, where k is in the set of integers. Since we have a 1 over cosine, we must also have a 1 over sine, and that is cosecant. So cosecant S, abbreviated CSC, is 1 over sine S. This also has restrictions because we cannot divide by 0. So we have to think, where is sine equal to 0? Sine is equal to 0 whenever we are at 0, pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, etc. So we can say that S cannot equal k pi, again, where k is in the set of integers. The last one we're going to look at is cotangent. Cotangent S, abbreviated as COT, represents 1 over tangent of S. It's very rare that we actually use it as 1 over tangent of S because we tend to represent tangent always as sine over cosine, so we can say cotangent is cosine S over sine S. Now this is going to follow the same restrictions as cosecant because we cannot have sine equal to 0, so therefore sine, or S, cannot equal k pi, where k is in the set of integers. So let's start to do some examples. Example 1. Let's take a look at the secant of 0. Well, first thing we want to do is rewrite secant, and secant is 1 over the cosine of 0. Remembering back to the unit circle that we know and love, the cosine of 0 is 1, and 1 over 1 is just 1. Fantastic. 2. Let's look at cosecant pi over 6. Okay, well, cosecant is 1 over which trig function? That is sine. So I have 1 over the sine of pi over 6. And you're going back to that unit circle that you have memorized, especially since you've already taken the pop quiz on it. And remember that the sine of pi over 6 is 1/2. 1 over 1/2, using our algebra skills, simplifies to be 2. Example 3. Let's look at the cotangent of pi over 4. Now we really liked pi over 4 with tangent because that was nice and simple, because the cosine of pi over 4 and the sine of pi over 4 are exactly the same. That would simplify to be 1 over root 2 over 1 over root 2, or just 1. 4. Let's look at the secant of 3 pi over 4. Now we're getting out of quadrant 1, so we have to think about what's happening at 3 pi over 4. Well, first of all, we're going to note that secant corresponds with 1 over the cosine. So now we're looking at the cosine of 3 pi over 4. 3 pi over 4 is in quadrant 2, where cosine is negative, so we have 1 over negative 1 over root 2. Rewriting that and putting it in proper notation, say hello to negative 1 over root 2. 5. Let's try the cotangent of 7 pi over 6. 7 pi over 6 falls in what quadrant? Well, that is in quadrant 3, where cosine and sine are both negative, and since cotangent is the cosine over the sine, we know that this is going to be positive because a negative over a negative makes a positive. So now we're looking at our reference angle, and this is the same exact thing as the cosine of pi over 6 over the sine of pi over 6. And we have our unit circle memorized, so that's root 3 over 2 over 1/2. Technically, they are both negative because we are in quadrant 3, but a negative and a negative give us that the cotangent is positive root 3. Let's do a couple more as you-dos. Go ahead and try 6, the tangent of 35 pi over 4, the cosecant of negative 8 pi over 3, and the secant of negative 7 pi over 3. Go ahead and take a couple minutes, try each one, and we'll be back to go over the answers. Okay, I know you're probably not done, but go ahead and pause it if you need more time, finish up your problems, and then come back and let's keep going over the answers. 35 pi over 4. It's awesome because it's a pi over 4, so it allows us to simplify and know that it's going to either be 1 or negative 1 based on the quadrant. If you need to, don't forget to rewrite it as a mixed number. But this puts us in quadrant what? 2. Fantastic. So this is going to put us in quadrant 2, where tangent is negative. So this is the same thing as the negative tangent of pi over 4, which is negative 1. Cosecant of negative 8 pi over 3. Well, figure out what quadrant that puts us in, and we know that cosecant is 1 over sine. So this is the same thing as 1 over the negative sine of pi over 3. Or we could just say negative 1 over root 3 over 2. Or negative 2 over root 3. Last one, negative 7 pi over 3. That's going to correspond to 1 over the cosine of pi over 3. 1 over 1/2, and we get 2. Hopefully you did well with that. We will pick back up with more practice on these. So you just want to make sure you come ready to class with the idea of knowing that secant corresponds to 1 over cosine, cosecant corresponds to 1 over sine, and cotangent corresponds to 1 over tangent, but more commonly we say cosine over sine. Don't forget the restrictions on what S is able to be for each of those, because we can't divide by 0, and we'll be doing more practice with this in class. Have a good one, and don't forget to study for your 1-1 to 1-3 quiz.